Hello, welcome back to Northwest Propshaft YouTube channel on a lovely summer's day here up in Lancashire. Let's go and talk about flanges. Let's go. So here we are, lovely Saturday morning. Only a couple of us in this morning because we're coming for tidy up on a Saturday. Just have a look round, bit of noise going on, but here we go, just show you. Here's Jerry. Hello, Jerry. You right? Good, here we go. Let's have a look through here. So here we go. These arrived yesterday. Lovely cat prop shafts, all to be repaired. Some big cat machines from big company up in the north of England, so that's an interesting job this week. Try and find parts for them. Getting old now, these things, but we can still find them. But today we're going to be talking mostly about flanges. Now then, I had a phone call this week from a customer. He was looking for us to build a prop shaft for him, which is standard sort of thing. That's all we do here, we build prop shafts. And he wanted a particular flange. So he kept saying, it's a standard axle, it's a standard axle, which is great. It probably is a standard axle, but he couldn't tell us anything about it. It was actually off a Ford. He kept saying it's a Ford standard axle, so it needs a Ford standard flange. Now, the problem we have with Fords is they didn't really use a standard flange. There's probably at least four different flanges that they used on the diff. And some people can say, oh, we want a Cortina, we want an Escort, and it narrows it down a lot. Yeah, absolutely helps. It's wonderful. But the downside to things like Fords and people with kit cars and people playing with vehicles is that sometimes now these vehicles are just like Lego. They're so interchangeable, and people swap things and change things, and there's lots of things on the aftermarket where you can change the diff ratios and things like that it ends up being a little bit of a minefield. So we can end up sending some prop shafts out, and the flanges don't fit sometimes because we've just gone off what the customer's told us it's an Escort. So it doesn't always work. So the easiest way around it for us, a little bit of noise in the background, customer picking up a job I think there, is measuring. It's always going to be measuring. Measuring's the easiest thing. It's definite. We can't get it wrong. So just to show you 3 flanges here, move it down. So these 3 flanges, and there's another 2 as well, which I've not actually brought because I'm lazy, are Ford flanges. Now, these are some of the most common ones, really. And the dimensions that we look for, there's 5 things that we look for when we're asking you some information. So we'll use the bigger one, just 'cause it's easier. So the 3 things that we're asking for are the outside diameter, the OD. So this is actually 109 mil, but the outside diameter, this gives us a good chance of figuring out what it is. It's not a definite because some of these flanges aren't round. Some of them are cut out, so the square flanges. But the outside diameter gives us a good shout on what it might be. That's relatively important then. The most important parts are the actual points of contact. So the location in the middle, this little ring that you see here that sticks out ever so slightly, that's the bit that keeps your prop shaft central. So that's really important. So we always need to know the diameter of that. So that's 56 mil diameter on this. The second thing that we need to know is the PCD. What is PCD? Pitch circle diameter. That means if you were to draw an imaginary circle, it would cross through the center of all 4 of these holes. Now these 4 holes could be anywhere you want, but as long as they're on a PCD, we know what that is. So how to measure a PCD? It's pretty simple. Center of hole to center of hole. Now that's not always the easiest thing. So if you use edge of hole to edge of hole, that's usually a little bit easier. Or you could measure the whole thing, the whole thing all the way across, and then take off the width of a bolt. That'll give you the PCD. It's easier to use a vernier for this. Verniers are more accurate. You can use a tape measure. Tape measures will get us to what we need. It's just a little bit more when you're measuring across, it's a little bit more accurate to use a vernier. So the PCD is something that we need. Now, sometimes on some prop shafts, the holes are offset slightly, so a slightly different dimension that way than they are that way. It still has a PCD, so these 4 holes will still hit a pitch circle diameter, but they're offset on an angle slightly. So in that case, we need the dimension from center hole to center hole in both directions, like that. So that gives us the location, the PCD, the bolt hole centers, BHC, bolt hole centers, and then finally, how big's the bolt that's going through? Sometimes small bolts, sometimes big bolts, but the size of the bolt that goes through is what we need. So these are called SAE flanges. So if you look, the location sticks out. So it's a little location sticking out, and that'll locate into your diff flange, and that's what keeps it all running central. Now, they don't all have that. So there's an example of one here. This is called a DIN flange. This is a metric flange. So if you see, the location is inside. So on your diff or on the mounting flange to this, it'll stick out like that instead. So they go together and form a location. So this is a DIN flange. Now, some that we deal with don't have any of this whatsoever. They have this. This is called a KV flange, cross tooth. So instead of it located inside a central circle, each of these teeth locate. Now, these tend to be mostly on trucks and commercial vehicles. It just allows a lot more torque to go through. So on these, the torque is being taken up by the bolts that go through there. So bolts are quite important on the correct strength of bolts that you're putting through, because that's what takes up the torque and takes up the drive. Whereas these, the actual teeth themselves take up the drive. So I had to cut that video a little bit short there because Saturday morning, and things always happen on a Saturday morning. So I'll just show you this. It's quite interesting. So this has come in from one of our customers. 3 prop shafts, 2 different vehicles, and they have gone blam. Look at the state of that. Completely sheared off. Just a Volvo truck sat in the mud on a Saturday morning. So we've now got a couple of hours to get these 3 back up and running and out of the workshop. So I've come back into the office because the workshop has just got very loud. Those Volvo shafts are going through the workshop now, so there's lots of things going on. We need to get those done and sorted, so I just thought I'd come back in here and finish up this little video. Just on these, I've lost my pen. Pen's gone. Just on these PCDs. Ah, there we go, pen's in my pocket. So when you look at the flange, nice big round flange, we need to know the outside diameter. So that's OD. Then you've got the location on the inside, the little ring that holds it, lock. And you've got the 4 holes. And a pretend circle goes through these 4 holes, the center of the 4 holes. That's called PCD. Then we've got the bolt hole centers, so the center of the holes. BHC. And we've got the bolt diameter. So those 5 things are the things that we work off when we're trying to figure out what a flange is. And we can make these flanges. So we start off with a complete blank flange, and we can put in the PCD, we can put in the location, we can put it all in. So if you've got something really oddball, 1914 cars, like pre-war, post-war cars, old Alvises we've been doing quite a lot of, they've got very oddball flange fittings, we can make them. So we have blanks on shelf, and we have the ability to make them. So don't worry. If it's standard, dead easy, we keep them on shelf. But these are the 5. These are the 5 things that we need to know to figure out what your flange is. So I've said the word flange a lot today, and I feel like YouTube might take this down. But flange. Okay, thank you very much. This is, remember, click subscribe and like, and see if we can get a few likes. It's quite interesting, this whole new YouTube like. A little boy says you've got to tell him to say subscribe and like. All right, okay. So Patch says subscribe and like, please. Thank you very much. We'll see you on the next time. And if you've got any questions, comments, or anything like that, please let us know. Or if you want to know anything about Propshaft that you think a video would be informative for you, or if you just want to see more of what we do, ask the question and we'll see if we can do a video about what we do. Thank you very much. See you later.